Hello everyone and welcome to All Things Watched. In this video we are going to talk about the brand new MCU Phase 5, their newest addition to the multiverse saga, which was of course Deadpool and Wolverine, which was actually a movie that was designed to do a few things. First and foremost, it was designed to introduce the mutants officially into the MCU, and then of course also it was to continue the story of Deadpool, which I think they actually did a pretty good job at wrapping up the trilogy. I feel like this was a really good finale to a Deadpool trilogy, but also the beginning of something so much more. We also have the return of Hugh Jackman portraying his character as Wolverine, and so many other amazing cameos that I'm not going to talk about here in this video, but stay tuned for a spoiler video that we will be doing with screenshots that I was able to accumulate online, and we will be doing a scene-by-scene breakdown hopefully within the next 24 to 48 hours. We're going to break down the entire movie, talk about all the spoilers, all the cameos, and all of that good stuff. But for this video, this is a spoiler-free review, so let's just jump right into it. So in terms of the story, it was a very basic, very simple story. I will talk about this one little minor, I guess kind of a minor spoiler. It's not a spoiler that will ruin the movie or a cameo or anything like that. It's just this movie introduces us to something that no other multiversal project, including Loki or Multiverse of Madness or Spider-Man No Way Home, neither one of these movies or series that involve the multiverse, none of them has actually established this idea known as anchors, whereas here in Deadpool and Wolverine it did introduce us to this idea which is known as a universe's anchor. And the idea is that if there is a certain character or a certain person, say, who is the universe's anchor, and then something happens to that person, for example, if they were to die or something like, something in that terms, or maybe even be banished or erased or sent to the void, so to speak, if something happens to the character in that universe and that universe's anchor just simply ceases to exist or just goes away in that universe, then the universe automatically starts to die at the moment that something happens to the anchor. And of course, so that's something that was never introduced before in any other MCU movie or any other MCU multiversal project, but I do think that this is going to be very important moving forward in our 616 universe, maybe even potentially suggesting maybe that Iron Man's death in the 616 universe in Avengers Endgame, maybe Iron Man would be the 616 anchor, given the fact that the entire MCU began with the first Iron Man movie. And now that we are in the multiversal saga, all the projects that have ever existed with Marvel are now technically canon. Even if they don't tie directly into the MCU, they do sort of indirectly tie into the MCU because of the fact that they are these different stories set in these different universes. So in the whole saga of the multiversal saga, then I would say that all Marvel projects, even the very old ones back to the 90s, even the Punisher, the original, Punisher Warzone, we already know, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man from No Way Home, like pretty well every project that Marvel has ever done now at this point under the multiversal saga now technically is sort of directly or indirectly canon, because you could just say it takes place in a universe even if it don't have direct effects to the story as a whole. So that is something that this film has introduced that no other movie has done yet in the multiversal saga, which is introduced this idea of an anchor, and even how and what the anchor is in this movie I thought was absolutely flawless. I'm not going to say what it is, this is a spoiler-free review, but I will say that the anchor that they chose to go, the direction that Shawn Levy and Ryan Reynolds sort of chose to go with this film, I think personally was not only the right choice, but probably the best choice that they could have done. In fact, I don't think that there's anything else that they could have done to make it better, because really what this movie is, first and foremost, it's sort of like a nod or a tipping of the hat, or even for that matter the passing on of a baton of the Fox era of the Fox X-Men universe with the original characters. There were cameos in this movie that I was expecting. There were cameos in this movie that I was excuse me, not expecting, not even a little bit. There were cameos that I was expecting that were not in the movie, but overall, if you look at this movie as a whole, this was sort of a farewell, but also sort of a beginning to the X-Men from the Fox universe, and then now sort of into the MCU universe. But I will say one thing, you know, I did read online before watching the movie, or seeing something online where people were talking about the post-credit scene. They're like, oh my god, this post-credit scene is mind-blowing. It's not mind-blowing at all. In fact, it doesn't even tease anything or show anything of the future of the MCU. It's literally, the post-credit scene literally has only something to do with Deadpool and Wolverine. It's basically just sort of like an extension, or sort of like wraps up the movie in a bow, but it has nothing to do with anything from the future, has nothing to do with Kang or any other project. It only has to do with the movie that you just watched. Really, honestly, it's just sort of like an extended scene of a scene that happens in the movie, but that's all I'm going to say with that. So this post-credit scene is not mind-blowing. There's no cameo in it. It's not something like, whoa, I can't wait to see what's going to happen. It's literally just sort of an extended scene, or even sort of explaining a scene, so to speak, or going a little further with the scene that we've already seen in the movie. So don't think that the post-credit scene is mind-blowing. In fact, I would even argue and say that maybe the post-credit scene is so insignificant that if you don't want to wait and sit there through all of the post-credits or all of the credits, then I wouldn't. Honestly, the post-credit scene is not worth you sitting through the whole credits, but it is sort of a cool little scene, just like I said, sort of alluding to a scene that we've already seen, sort of extending or expanding, or even confirming something that we've seen in the movie. And it was just, it's really just a joking thing. It's a joke that Deadpool makes, or sort of like this scene where Deadpool is carrying on with a certain character and saying something about a certain character, and, you know, and we just don't really know if he's telling the truth or not. Well, in the post-credit scene, you'll find out if he was lying or if he was telling the truth, and that's it. Literally, that's what the post-credit scene is. It's just Deadpool revealing whether or not he made up this lie that he said in the movie, or if he was actually telling the truth, and that's it. So there's no ramifications of the post-credit scene, no teases, no nothing. It's literally just him, you know, sort of confirming whether or not he lied or told the truth about something that happened during the actual film. So like I said, in terms of the cameos, there were some cameos that were absolutely jaw-dropping. One in particular, I'm not going to say who it was or what it is, but I will say it was a cameo that I was not expecting, because a lot of cameos were leaked online before the movie. A lot of people had these crazy predictions. There's one in particular, this one cameo, that I will say that I was not expecting that did come. And I also really loved how they utilized the cameos. These cameos are not just one-offs. They're not in the movie just for the sake of being in the movie. Every cameo, even the ones that were in there only briefly, they all had an actual purpose, and I really appreciated that. This was not a cameo fest movie just for the cameos. The cameos were a part of the story. It made sense. They were very important parts of the story, actually. Even the quick cameos, I really loved how they utilized the multiverse in this one. I think it was done better than Multiverse of Madness. And I think that I would even go as far as saying that, for me personally, I do think that this movie was better than No Way Home, and how they utilized the multiverse, but not necessarily story-wise. I think the story of No Way Home was better, but I liked this movie, how they did it, you know, everything about the movie, not just the story, but even the cameos themselves. I would say the cameos in this movie were used the same as Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield in No Way Home. They didn't just appear, they actually helped, they were part of the story. Well, this movie does that as well, but I do think that the multiversal part of this movie was done better than any of the other, multiversal movies that we've seen in the Multiverse Saga. I also think that when you really think about it, this is the only movie that we've actually seen really fully outside of the 616 universe, and so that within itself, I think, is very significant, which differentiates this multiversal movie from anything else that we've seen. This entire movie takes place in a completely different universe. You know, it's kind of funny because the marketing and everything of this movie was all like, oh, the X-Men are coming to the MCU. Deadpool is now under Disney. They're joining the MCU. But if I'm going to be honest with you, the MCU is almost not even in this movie. I mean, it's sprinkled throughout the movie. Deadpool he doesn't hold back. It is absolutely hard R. The violence is very gory. He makes fun of the multiversal saga and how Marvel's not really doing all that well right now. He makes fun of everything from the fandom to himself in real life, Ryan Reynolds, to Hugh Jackman, to Wolverine, and all that kind of stuff. But I will say, the one disappointing part of this movie is that if you're going in here hoping to see the X-Men joining the MCU or Deadpool and Wolverine becoming a part of the MCU, I think honestly I would say you're probably going to be a little bit disappointed, because it's not really like that. The story is not really them coming to the MCU. In fact, I think from what I can recall, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but I'm pretty sure there was only one single scene in the whole movie that actually related to the MCU. Like, what I mean by that is, I think there was only one scene where there was at least one mutant actually in the 616 universe, and then the entire movie takes place either in the Void or in Deadpool's universe himself. Now, there were certain members from the TVA that were there that I was not expecting to see, especially one in particular. I won't say anything about who it was, but there was one TVA member in the movie that I was not expecting to see. But beyond the TVA itself, there's really no connection to the MCU, to the actual 616 MCU that we were following the whole time. This is a very standalone movie that does take place in Deadpool's universe, although I will say they do establish where Deadpool is in his universe. Is he a part of the X-Men universe, or is he sort of like his own little pocket? Does he relate, is he a part of the Logan and the Wolverine trilogy? Is he a part of that, universe? Is all that a part of the Fox X-Men? So they do establish where Deadpool lies, whether or not he's in his own sort of little pocket universe, or if he's actually a part of the X-Men universe. They do explain that part and whatnot. But if you're looking for something really exciting and you're excited to see the mutants in the 616 universe, this is not that movie, even though it was sort of marketed. But overall, I had a ton of fun with Deadpool and Wolverine. And honestly, if I had to give this one a number, I'd probably give it like an 8.5 out of 10. I absolutely loved it. The cameos were what I was expecting, not what I was expecting, and in some cases even better than what I was expecting. The story was a pretty standard story. There were a lot of flaws, there were a few hiccups with the story that I was kind of just like trying to figure out, like, why were certain things done this way, but I'm not going to talk about it here. I will talk about it in my spoiler review, so check that out. Definitely check out the spoiler review, where we will dive really heavy, really deep with screenshots of the movie and whatnot and all that good stuff. But overall, I absolutely loved the movie. Do I think this is going to put Marvel back on track? No, because I don't think any one movie can do that. And also, I do feel like this movie was still more in the Fox universe than the 616 universe, even though we know it's not. We know that Deadpool and Wolverine now are owned by Disney. It is a part of the multiverse. It is a part of the MCU multiverse, but I still wouldn't go as far as saying that this one movie will fix the MCU. This is truly a one-off movie. You can tell it feels like a one-off and whatnot, and it feels like it actually felt like it's not a part of the MCU, but it also felt like it's not a part of the Fox universe. It felt really like it's its own universe contained within itself, which I think, now that I think about it, makes sense as to why they would just keep it at most of this movie in the Void, because that's sort of how this movie felt. It felt like it was a Void type movie, not really in any universe, just sort of in its own almost no man sort of Mad Max type way. Excuse me, and all that good stuff. And so anyways, that's my review of Deadpool and Wolverine. Let me know in the comment section below if you've seen it, and if you'd like to tell me why or why not. If you like this video, click that subscribe button and check out my spoiler review, where we will absolutely break down the movie scene by scene and talk about the cameos, some things we loved, some things we hated, and something that maybe we wish were a little different, and all that good stuff. And that's pretty well all I got. So until the next video, take care.